So the question is, if in the last few years there hasn't been violence from Palestinians, why are they still not allowed to come into Israel?
Why are there been? First of all, the fact that there hasn't been any violence, I don't think is 100% accurate.
Okay.
Other than that,
Well, can you give us, what do you mean? Can you give an example?
there's always violence, not necessarily only from one side, but violence exists, even if it seems quiet. There's still tension.
Okay.
You know, so tension is another form of violence.
Okay. So, well, meaning what? So if they did come in, what?
I don't know. Not an army person, but I guess they make their decisions. But the fact that there hasn't been any violence, I don't think is accurate on either side.
The reason that there hasn't been any violence is because that the Palestinians couldn't come into Israel, because if they could and they were here, we had more troubles. That was what happened before, and the IDF or whatever just don't let them go into Israel because of the violence that was here before. And if the Palestinians were able to be here, so we did have those troubles and violence. That's the reason.
For the last few years, there hasn't been violence from Palestinians in the West Bank.
There hasn't been?
Why are they not allowed into Israel? That's the question. And
Well,
it comes from someone who's Palestinian.
Okay. Well, the bottom line is that as far as Israelis go, I'm pretty much left-wing, and I'm very active in civil rights movements, including Rabbis for Peace and the Bereaved Families Forum for Peace and other forums. I think that the Palestinian nation and the Israeli nation are both nations under trauma. And I think in many ways, when it comes to trauma, you know, Palestinians having the 1948 and then 1967, the Nakba, and onwards. And Israel is having the Holocaust and, you know, different pogroms before. Both nations are under trauma. In my eyes, the best way to heal is to first separate and take some time. I think Palestinians ought not to have Israeli soldiers in their cities, and vice versa, as far as Israelis not having Palestinian population, which potentially can be harmful, potentially. So I think that for a decade, 2 decades, three decades, whatever, there ought to be some sort of separation with the children visiting one another through different programs such as Seeds of Peace, etc. But that ought to be the first step. I think then the second step would be, of course, to eliminate the wall, eliminate the separation barrier, because I think it would be nonsense. But I'm afraid that it's not the current time to do so.
Okay, so that's the solution, but what is the reason that Palestinians can't just come here?
Unfortunately, I have many friends in Ramallah and in Nablus and in Bethlehem that really would like to come and visit me, and they cannot receive permits. Usually it's because of the security reasons. The Israeli government does not want to take any chances as far as letting potentially harmful visitors to come in. And it's a really difficult situation. I need to visit my Palestinian friends in Jordan, which is like crazy, or in East Jerusalem in some areas such as Bajala. It's pretty awful. But it's the same with me. I cannot go into Ramallah, even though some people in Ramallah would say that it's not dangerous for me or hazardous. And what can I say? As an Israeli citizen, I cannot go there. I'm not allowed. So.
Since there hasn't been much violence from the Palestinians, why are they still not allowed to come into Israel?
What do you mean?
Like a Palestinian from Hebron or Ramallah can't just come here to Tel Aviv. They have to get a permit to come.
I think since the Intifada, there was like all the big noise, and for whole years of huge conflict, it became like everyone wanted to be in each side, don't want to merge together. You're going to be there, we're going to be here. Maybe this is the reason.
מאז האינתיפאדה, או אפילו לפני, אסור לפלסטינאים מהשטחים לבוא לכאן. למה אם אין אלימות, למה זה עדיין ככה? לפי דעתך.
אז קודם כל עדיין יש אלימות, תמיד יש אלימות.
אוקיי, כמו מה?
לא מזמן היה אירוע של פלסטינאים שזרקו אבנים על משאית, ורכב שנסע מאחורי המשאית התנגש בגלל שהמשאית מהבעלה איבד שליטה על הרכב, וילדה נפגעה בצורה מאוד מאוד קשה, אמא שלה נהרגה. זה אלימות. מעבר לזה, אני אגיד לך באמת את דעתי. אנחנו גדלנו בפחד מהם, כי אנחנו בידיעה שלנו יודעים שהם שונאים אותנו, לא משנה מה, הם פשוט שונאים אותנו. למשל, יש מקומות בארץ שלנו שאני מפחדת לנסוע אליהם, כי אני יודעת שבדרך יש איזשהו כפר ערבי, אני מפחדת לעבור שם. כי הפחד שיזרקו אבן, או אתה יודע, כל דבר כזה, זה סכנת חיים. אז הנה, אני נוסעת ומסתובבת, אבל איפה שיש בדרך כפר ערבי, אני לא נוסעת. אז כן יש אלימות. עצם זה שהאלימות היא אפילו במחשבה.
שלהם, כאילו.
גם שלנו, כי אנחנו חיים בפחד, אני לפחות, אתה יודע מה, אני לא יכולה להגיד על כולם, אבל אני אומרת לך דוגמה על עצמי, האלימות קיימת, אפילו במחשבה.
So since the second Intifada is kind of over, the last few years, Palestinians want to know why they're still not allowed in Israel.
Well,
Since there's no violence.
Yeah, but basically, the belief among the Israelis is that because of the minority of the terrorists that would do anything to hurt Israeli civilians, innocent civilians, which without any thought about children or women or anybody else, and because of the fact that nobody around the Palestinian population will do anything to stop them, we don't want to put in risk any of our civilians. So these days, this is our main concern. I would be happy, and I know that most of the Israeli people would be happy if they would know that it's something that we can eliminate. If we could do that, I can tell you about myself.
Eliminate what? Terrorism, you mean, just in general?
That threat.
Okay.
That threat of terrorists that come and will kill people without difference between age or gender or anything else. I can tell you about myself that I will be more than happy to know that Palestinians can come into Israel, work in Israel, make a good living for themselves in Israel, if I know that it won't put in risk the civilian population over here in Israel. And I know that most of the Israeli people think that.